Increased poverty in English towns and villages was the main consequence of the dissolution of the monasteries. How far do you agree? Explain your answer. You may use the following in your answer. Nobility, Catholic practices. You must also use information of your own. 16 marks. Here is the mark scheme for this question. You can find out more about this on our overview video. 10 marks are awarded for AO2, which is your analysis and evaluation of the second order historical concept. You need to identify what this is in this particular question. So for this question, we're dealing with significance. We're thinking, what was the most significant consequence of the dissolution of the monasteries? Do you agree that it was increased poverty? Or do you disagree? Do you think there were other factors that were more significant? You need to come to a judgment and explain why you think what you do. That brings us on to AO1 for the next 6 marks, and that is for your knowledge and understanding of the period. You need to use evidence to support your argument, so bringing in the stuff that you already know to show that you've got a really good and solid understanding of the topic. Here are the bottom 2 bands. If your answer scores in these bands, it means that whilst you've answered the question, your comments are maybe a little bit general, so that means that they need to be developed further by bringing in evidence from your own knowledge, showing that you've been analytical in trying to decide what is the most significant factor. It could also mean that your structure might be a little bit difficult to follow, so maybe the examiner isn't exactly sure what exactly you're arguing. Here are the top 2 bands. Now, to get a higher mark in this question, you need to have shown that you've come to a judgment. So you've decided either that this is the most significant factor or that there maybe was another factor that was more significant, and you've developed that point by bringing in evidence to support what you're saying and generally just having a clear argument through a nicely organised structure. As long as the points you make to support your judgment are relevant to the question and correct, the examiner will accept them. But here are some examples of points that you could have included. Now, it's a good idea to use the point, evidence, explain structure. So, for example, you could make the point that monks and nuns were often impoverished by the dissolution of the monasteries. Your evidence could be that they lost their homes and their livelihoods. And then to explain that and kind of link it back to the question, you could say that this meant that many of them faced severe poverty, vagrancy, and were forced to beg. So you can see that we've taken our point, we've used an evidence from our own knowledge and then linked it back to the question. So that's a really nicely developed point, and that is how you can score in the higher bands for this question. Take a look at the rest of the points to see if there's anything that you could have added to your own answer.